Video that is designed to help you with the transistor homework that I assigned for this class. All right, so one of the problem statements says to connect a p-channel transistor. Okay, so we'll draw a p-channel transistor. If you remember, that has the bubble on the input. And we stack that with an n-channel transistor, so draw another transistor. No bubble on the input. All right, so the input to this gate are applied to both the transistors, and then this is connected to the supply voltage, which is often called VCC, although that's a dated term. We'll talk about that more sometime in class. All right, and then ground goes right here. This is the input, and this is the output. These are voltages, so I'm going to put a little voltage subscript here. All right, so that's the idea. I want you to remember how that works. It's pretty easy. You just stack transistors. P's always go on top. The circuit won't work without the P transistor on top. You'll learn more about that in electronics. And then you apply the inputs, and you take the output from the connection point. All right, so the next thing I wanted you to do is to copy this circuit 2 times. And part of it is, I want you to practice drawing it because I think it's something that helps you learn visually. Draw this circuit a few times to help you recognize it. Of course, I'm cutting and pasting it, but I think it's better if you draw it by hand. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is apply the 2 possibilities for the input. All right, so one possibility is that Vn is low. If it's low, that low voltage applies and hits the bubble, turns it to a high. That's one way of thinking of it, but I think of it as if the low is applied to a p-channel transistor, it turns that on and it becomes a short. Okay, on this n-channel transistor, the one without the bubble, the low is applied and this transistor would be off. It takes a high to turn on an n-channel. So I draw a circle here, meaning this is open, an open circuit. All right, so the last thing I told you to do in the homework, or the last thing of that part, is to identify the path. All right, there's going to be a path that connects the output to VCC in this case. And whenever you're identifying the paths, typically it's either VCC or ground. There are some exceptions to that, but look for paths that take you between VCC or ground. Notice I can't go this way. If I'm going this way, I run into an open circuit and there's no place for current to flow. All right, and so there's not a path of connection between V out and ground. All right, so the other possibility is I apply a high at the input. If there's a high here, there's a bubble, which means this is an open. All right, if there's a high at this gate, it's in channel, it's a short. I can identify the path. The path is from V out to ground. So in this case, V out is equal to low. In the previous case, it was connected up to the high voltage. All right, so that's the first part. Okay, the next thing I want you to be able to do is, from memory, draw a NAND gate. All right, so what I said to do is to remember that those are stacked p-channel transistors. And the thing is, for a NAND gate, you put the p-channel transistors on the top, as usual, but you put them in parallel. Okay, so I'm going to put them side by side in parallel. Those connect to VCC. Then we do a series connection for the n-channel transistors. So put those in series. And connect that to ground. Okay, so parallel for P, series for N. We have 2 inputs here. All right, so that doesn't connect, all right? That's a crossover wire. And we can apply A here and B here, and the same input would apply to the other gates, A here and B here. And then here's the output, B out. All right, so draw that from memory, but what you're thinking of is the organization of the gate. P channels on top, in parallel, N channels in series on the bottom. All right, so next what I want you to do is to be able to copy this. Redraw it is what I recommend you do. Redraw this circuit, and now let's put input combinations, okay? Let's say both of these are, well, let's mix it up. Let's make A equal low and B equal high, okay? So if A is a low, I can follow the wire here. It also applies here and here, right? So I have a low here, and the high voltage for B applies here, and it also applies here. Okay, so let me just redraw those. All right, so I can tell based on the inputs to the transistors whether the transistor is on or off. In this first case here, it's on. In this case, it's off, so I draw a circle indicating an open circuit. If it's low here and there's no bubble, this means this is off. Okay, and if it's high here, it's on. All right, so now I'm thinking about the path. From V out, where can I go? Well, I look, there's not, because these are in series, any one of these transistors being off blocks the path to ground. And so the only option I have here is to go up to VCC. So for this input combination, the output is a high. All right, so that's my hint for you. I want you to do the same things, and I think you can generalize that. I'm going to ask you about a NOR gate, and what you do is you just put the P channel transistors, the ones that are on top, in series, and you put the N channel transistors in parallel and go through the same process. All right, so look at that homework and see how far you can get with that. It gets really interesting when you get to the AND gate because you're going to stack a NAND gate first and follow that with an inverter. So take a look, do your best. I'll give you the solutions.